I'm going to sing first and you follow me, no? Okay. Kiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Aroti Ke Sobha Kiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Aroti Ke Sobha Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pairajaka Chacha A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pairajaka Chacha Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananti Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Premseko Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Vedikadada Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Mayapur Vrindavan Dham Ki Nilachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Ganga Devi Yamu Devi Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Savana Bhaktavinda Ki Nitai Gaur Pramandi all glory assembled devotees, all glory assembled devotees, all glory assembled devotees, all glory Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Everyone can sit down for 5 minutes. We're going to pray to Lord Nrsimhadev for protection.
Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Dear visitors, now is going to be a Bhagavad Gita lecture, or you can also have some Mahaprashadam lectures and then join lately. Everybody?
Hare Krishna. Nice to see so many of you here. This is a big audience, believe it or not. This is like more than usual, so thank you so much for attending. So we'll sing the Jai Radha Madhava prayers first. If you know, you can sing along. Jai Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prachajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from chapter 10, text 27. It will be a different page number in each book, but chapter 10 and text 27. In my version, it's on page 538, but I'm not sure if you've got the same. Okay, yeah, in this. So, I'll recite the Sanskrit and then line by line, and then you can repeat. Okay, it's actually quite challenging. Uchai Aishvanam. Uchai Shravasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amritodbhavam. Vidhimam Amritodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam cha naradhipam. Naranam cha naradhipam. Uchaishravasam ashvanam. Vidhimam amritodbhavam. Airavatam gajendranam. Naranam cha narodhipam. So with chapter 10, so it'll be about in the middle, somewhere just past the middle, chapter 10. Yeah, maybe you can. Would anyone like to have a go in the Sanskrit? Uchai Shrashvasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amritodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam cha naradhipam. Uchai Shravasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amritodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam cha naradhipam. Anyone else? No? Okay. I'm not going to force you. Next time. Okay, so word for word. Uchai Shravasam. Uchai Shrava. Yeah, tongue twister. Ashvanam. Among horses. Vidhi. No. Mam. Me. Amrita Udbhavam. Produced from the churning of the ocean. Airavatam. Airavata. Gaja Indranam. Of lordly elephants. Naranam. Among human beings. Cha. And. Nara Adhipam. The king. Okay, full translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation of horses know me to be the Uchai Shrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants I am Airavata, and among men I am the monarch. So please repeat after me. Of horses, know me to be Uchaishrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar, of lordly elephants, I am Airavata, and among men, I am the monarch. So the purport, the devotee, demigods, and the demons, asuras, once took part in the churning the sea. From this churning, nectar and poison were produced, and Lord Shiva drank the poison. From the nectar were produced many entities, of which there was a horse named Uchaishrava. Another animal produced from the nectar was an elephant named Airavata. Because these two animals were produced from nectar, they have special significance, and they are representatives of Krishna. Amongst the human beings, the king is the representative of Krishna, because Krishna is the maintainer of the universe, and the kings who are appointed on account of their godly qualifications are maintainers of their kingdoms. Kings like Maharaj Yudhisthira, Maharaj Parikshit, and Lord Ram were all highly righteous kings who always thought of the citizens' welfare. In Vedic literature, the king is considered to be the representative of God. In this age, however, with the corruption of the principles of religion, monarchy decayed and is now finally abolished. It is to be understood that in the past, however, people were more happy under righteous kings. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahakana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschitya Deshatarine. Okay, thank you for coming. So usually I like to, in my classes, do like kind of discussion. So I'll explain some of it because it's a kind of verse that needs a bit of explaining. But then hopefully we can kind of bounce off and churn some nectar, which is interesting actually because this verse is all about churning nectar as well. So I want to ask you, what's the, does anyone know the name of chapter 10? What's chapter 10 called? Opulence of the Absolute. Yeah, it says right in front of you. So I thought I'd start off, make you feel comfortable. So in chapter 10, we learn all about Krishna's opulences. So all of the things that make him wonderful and great. Why do you think it's important, actually, to know about the opulence of the Absolute, to know about the opulence of the Lord? Why is it important to know about these opulences of Krishna? Yeah, so he's saying if anyone didn't hear. So there's people listening online, they maybe didn't hear. Shruti was saying how we need to know the opulences of the Lord so that we know that he's the supreme actually, and he has qualities that nobody else has. Yeah, that's really important. He's incomparable to anyone. Yeah, very good. Okay, I'll just do a little recap of what's been covered so far in chapter 10. So, Krishna starts off and he just tells Arjuna, I'm going to be giving you some more knowledge. So this part of the Bhagavad Gita, chapters 7 to 12, is the Bhakti Yoga section, actually. So this is our, very important section for us. It's considered like the treasure in the treasure chest between Karma Yoga, chapters 1 to 6, and Jnana Yoga, which is chapters 13 to 18. So Krishna starts by saying, okay, Arjuna, I'm going to give you some even more special knowledge. Because you are my dear friend, he says. He often addresses Arjuna as his dear friend. And for his benefit, he's going to speak even more. Okay? And then he just says that nobody really knows who he is, actually. Even the demigods and great sages don't completely understand him. They don't know me as the unborn or the beginningless, so he gives a few of his own qualities. And then text 4 to 5, he explains how all qualities, good and bad qualities, come from him. So qualities like intelligence, knowledge, control of the mind, death, fear, fearlessness, all of these have an origin. And there's only one origin, and that's Krishna. And then, he's saying that everything comes from me, all of the progenitors of mankind, all of the living beings, all descend ultimately from Krishna. And then if we're convinced, so this is another reason why we need to know of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. He says if we're convinced of this opulence, then we engage in devotional service. So if we know more about the opulences of Krishna, then we're more likely to want to engage in serving him and in knowing, in deepening our relationship with him. And then we get the Chatta Sloki. So this is texts 8 to 11. So this is the Chatta Sloki of the whole Bhagavad Gita, actually. So these 4 verses are very important. And Krishna just explains that he's the source of everything, spiritual and material. And then he explains how the pure devotees, they're always engaging in conversing about him, and they become very pleased by talking about him. And then he says if we're constantly devoted to serving him with love, then he gives us the understanding, he gives us the knowledge by which we can come to him. So if we're sincere, basically, then he helps us on our path. And he helps us in the way that he destroys the ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge, he says, destroys the ignorance from our hearts. Okay, and then we come into the opulences, actually. So Arjuna then accepts that Krishna, your Supreme Lord, and then Krishna starts to explain his opulences, which Arjuna asks for, actually. How can I think of you, he says. How can I constantly think of you? And how can I know you? What are the forms by which you can be remembered? And then Krishna goes on to explain what these opulences are. So I'll just say a few, I'll just breeze through. So text 20, he's saying he's the super soul, he's seated in all the hearts of the living entities. He's the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then he says, of the lights, I am the sun. Of the stars, I am the moon. And of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. Of the demigods, Indra. Of the senses, I'm the mind. So basically, Krishna's just explaining to us that he's the best of everything. Whatever you can think of, like he's the best of that. I'm of Rudras, I'm Lord Shiva, all of these. Okay. And then we come to our verse. So I'm going to repeat actually the verse again. Of horses know me to be the Uchaishvara, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants I am Airavata, and among men I am the monarch. So I had to do a little bit of research actually, because I didn't know so much about this story of the churning of the ocean. So I'll just try and read through the notes that I made. So basically what was happening, the demons, they were trying to take over the universe, and this was conducted by Bali Maharaj, who's the king of the demons. And they were ridding all of the demigods of their posts. So we see a lot in Vedic literatures how the demons and the demigods, they kind of fight and they can have wars. So this was not such instance. The demons trying to outdo the demigods or trying to, pull them down from their positions. So the demigods, they're considered like, for those of you maybe that don't know so much, they're like administrators. So Krishna's actually appointed them in particular positions, and they have control over certain things. For example, the sun, maybe they have control over the sun or the wind. And so they're very powerful, but they're living entities as well. Like even one of us could have been a demigod in our past life, like that. But they're very, very pious, which is why they've attained these high positions. Okay, and then the demons, so the asuras, they were trying to knock the demigods off their positions because of envy. So the demons are obviously, they have a lot of envy in their hearts, more envy. And so in that way they were trying to bring the demigods down. Okay, and the demigods were really worried about this, obviously, maybe a bit more than worried. And they go to Lord Brahma for help, and he said, okay, go to Vishnu, and then how to get out of this situation. So we learn actually in Bhagavad Gita how Krishna, a lot of distressed people come to Krishna. We learn there's 4 types of people that come to Krishna, to spirituality, and one of them is the distressed. Actually, we can see from what I've seen the past few years being in the movement, actually, most people come because of suffering. Well, at least that's a big factor. They come here to get some relief, which is okay. We're still coming to the right place. So yeah, to carry on with the story. So Lord Vishnu says they should make a truce with the demons, actually, to make an agreement. And so they plan to churn the ocean to try and get some nectar from the ocean, so the demons and the demigods, that is. And this becomes very, very difficult, so they have to they're kind of really over-endeavouring, actually, in this way, trying to churn the ocean of nectar. And they're even, like, dying to try and carry it. These celestial beings, the demigods, they're literally dying, trying to carry this. They had to use a mountain, actually, in some way, to be able to churn. And then the mountain starts sinking, and then Lord Vishnu comes to the rescue. There's another of his forms, in the form of Kurma, this tortoise incarnation, and he comes and he holds the mountain, and it acts like as a pivot for them to be able to churn this ocean of nectar. And then somehow Vasuki, who is the king of the snakes, he's bribed to help. And they say, if you help, then you'll get some nectar as well. And so he agrees. Because what they're after, actually, from this nectar, the nectar of the ocean, is called the elixir of life. So it's supposed to give them some immortality, or what we think as immortality. It was actually more like a very, very long life, so millions and millions of years. I think it was something like they would live for a day of Brahma, which for anyone that knows is a very, very long time. So in the heavenly planets, so in our earthly planet, the days and the years are much shorter, but in the heavenly planets where the demigods live, time is very long. They live, I think, for about 10,000 years, something like that, 10,000 of our earth years. And one day for Lord Brahma is, how long is it? I know the life of Brahma is like 3 trillion years or something like that. One day of Brahma is a very, very long time anyway, is what I can remember. So that it's like an eternity for us, and that's what they were trying to get from churning this nectar. And so they used this rope, and so the demons were on one end and the demigods were on the other, kind of trying to churn the ocean to get the nectar. And then Lord Vishnu is there holding the mountain as a pivot to be able to churn this ocean, and they're all running out of strength. And then Visuki, he starts to breathe some fire towards the demons, and so they're all getting scorched. And where am I? Sorry. Yeah, and so they're getting like burnt alive actually. And then Lord Vishnu, he comes at this point as Paramatma to kind of save the situation, because everyone's kind of like, so not bewildered was that word, just, desperate. And so he comes as Paramatma, so the Lord in the heart, and he inspires the demigods in the mode of goodness and the demons in the mode of passion, and Vasuki, because he's a snake, in the mode of ignorance. And from Lord Vishnu, they get more energy, actually. And so they're able to churn this ocean. But then the first thing that comes out is actually poison. And then so they have to go to Lord Shiva, and he agrees to drink the poison. So this is, you hear about this, that Lord Shiva drank the ocean of poison. So this is from this past time. And also, this is where this horse, Uchaishvara, and also the elephant Airavata, this is where they come from. They come out from this, this ocean of nectar. And there were even more, actually. There were more elephants that were coming out of the ocean of nectar. But Airavata is like the king of these elephants. And so Indra, who's one of the demigods, he took the elephant, and Bali Maharaj, the king of the demons, he took the horse. So during this truce that they made, they're all picking different things that are coming from the ocean of nectar. And then the demons steal the nectar again, and they start to fight over it. And so it's just like, again, just, it's like such a kind of just one thing after another, just one fight after another. And then, Mohini Murti, or Lord Vishnu comes as Mohini Murti, who's like a very beautiful woman, and she, just to distract the demons, basically, because they're trying to steal the nectar. And then the battle starts again. There's another battle, and then Bali Maharaj is slain. But he's brought back to life, and then we have another episode from the story of Vamanadev, which I won't go into now. But that's basically the story about this horse, Uchaishvara, and this Airavata, this elephant. So they're like, the best, like the king of the horses or of the elephants. And so that's what Krishna is saying in this verse. And then the next part of the purport, or the next part of the verse, is talking about how the Lord is represented in the king, actually. So the king was always the representative of God. traditionally invaded culture. And I think even actually in Western culture, I remember learning in history, like Henry VIII, you know, that he had, that's why he became so proud and things, because he had this authority that, oh, I've been appointed by God, I'm his representative, and that's, you know, how he became so proud, and started, you know, cutting off the heads of his wives and things like that. And yeah, so that can be a problem actually, if we hold some power, that it's very easy to become proud. And when we're proud, so there's that saying, pride comes before a fall, and it's very true. You start to get a little bit arrogant, you think, oh, I can do whatever I want really, you know, I have some power, no one's going to say anything. And that's what happened. So in the past, actually Prabhupada says in the purport in the past that people were actually happy to just live under a king who was making all of the decisions. We often associate this, how do you say, autocratic regime. We often associate that with, you know, oppression and, you know, people not being treated fairly and things like that, because that's what we hear about from days gone by. But actually, if the kings are, you know, righteous and they're doing their duty properly, then people are generally happy for them to make the decisions. And Prabhupada gives some examples in the text of Maharaj Yudhisthira, Maharaj Parikshit, and Lord Ram, actually. I'll just pause, actually, if anyone has any reflections or thoughts at this point. It's okay if you don't.
No.
Oh, maybe the volume isn't. Yeah, anyway. It's okay, I'll just repeat what you say.
Just one point I was thinking now, you're right what you're saying, the monarchy, like now, the monarchy today, the king, the religious institution are two separate, completely separate entities. But what we're seeing and what's suggested here in this chapter is that the king was also the religious leader.
Yeah.
Which is now changing. You gave an example of Henry VIII, for example. He overthrew the, as we know, the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
In 1536, whenever.
Yeah.
So it's very much two separate entities, whereas what we're seeing here is the king is the monarchy as well. Religious leader as well as the leader of the land.
Yeah, exactly.
How that shifted somehow.
Yeah. So, I mean, still, like, the Queen now is officially, like, the head of the Church of England, isn't she, actually? In this country, at least. I mean, yeah, there's not many countries now that have a monarchy at all. This is one of the only ones. But she doesn't have any power over the government, does she? She's just a figurehead. But yeah, it's interesting how the king was actually, his duty was to deliver the subjects. So it's said that you should never become like a father or a guru or also a king if you can't deliver the people who you're taking care of. So it was the duty of the king in those days to actually lead people back to Godhead, to give them that facility and so that they could live in a peaceful place and so that they had opportunity to advance spiritually. Actually, that was a really important duty of the king. But obviously, these days, it's kind of most rulers like aren't interested in that, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's actually really important that we stay friends with, you know, even if we don't necessarily like or get too involved with what they're doing. It's good to kind of stay friends actually with the leaders in some way, because in that way it's actually preaching, you know, if they're favourable, then, you know, maybe we can somehow, some ways and some time, we can maybe even be able to advise or, you know, just speak to them, be able to, so then they can understand a little bit of what we're about. And in that way, maybe, because if somebody really powerful is favourable, that can do like wonders. Like, for example, George Harrison, he bought this whole place, actually, because Prabhupada, he was speaking to him, and, he was very interested, and then he decided to buy this place for us, and, imagine what we would do without it. So, and only someone like him would have been able to afford such a place. So yeah, it's very important. And Prabhupada was also, he was always writing to political leaders, to Gandhi, to the Indian Prime Minister as well. He was trying to do that, to get some kind of recognition or, influence, I guess. Not influence necessarily, but just to spread the Krishna consciousness movement, actually going to people with a big, how do you say, someone famous that can spread that. So like we have, in our movement as well. Like Jay Shetty, he was speaking to Will Smith. He did a few interviews with Will Smith. He's very favourable to Krishna consciousness. I saw one really nice video on YouTube talking about Bhagavad Gita. And then Janavi Harrison, she's done this whole album with Will Smith's daughter. Yeah. And I think, those are the main ones at the moment. So, yeah. I'm sorry, I can't hear. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I did know. Yeah, he was. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, so it's actually very important. It's not like, we're completely against, everything in the outside world. We can still, engage in some way, as long as we're doing it with the aim that to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Does anyone have any reflections on what I've said?
I just wanted to ask, what is the symbolism or significance of the horse and the elephant? Why not another? Why not the cow or the deer?
Oh, I see. I mean, actually, Krishna does say at some point of cows, in the next verse he says, of cows I am the Sarabi. So Krishna, in this part of the Bhagavad Gita, he's just saying that he's the best of everything. So anything that you can think of, Krishna is the best. Like, of lights, I'm the sun, he says. So what's the brightest thing you can think of? The sun. There's so many different types of lights, but Krishna is the sun. And so of the horses, he is Uchaishvara, because that is the best of the horse. So it's not like there's not particular significance in that. It's just that he's the best in everything. And he's referring to this particular pastime as well of the churning of the ocean. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Has a signification. It's like the one who gives all his heart into something. And apparently in the manifested life, a horse would run until his heart stops. So it's like the horse is like giving everything until his heart explodes, basically.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they do.
So why then would you produce
Mm.
for nectar.
Mm-hmm.
Why was what was the purpose of churning the ocean for the nectar? What was the nectar?
So yeah, so as I was explaining. So this was just a pastime that I was trying to explain. There was the demons and the demigods. They were trying to churn the ocean. They were trying to, yeah, they were trying to get some nectar from the ocean so they could live longer, basically. Yeah, they wanted to get this elixir of life, which is the nectar that they could drink, and then they would live for a very long time, millions of years. Yeah, like a whole day of Brahma. I heard this is how long. Yeah. One day of Brahma. So I can't remember exactly, but it's many. So one yuga is like over 4 million years, and then there's 1,000 yuga cycles in a day of Brahma. So it's like 4 billion years then. So it's like crazy. We live for less than 100 years. It's literally tiny dot compared to just a day of Lord Brahma. Yeah, so there's these great kings. Maybe I can read a little bit about. Maharaj Yudhisthira. So during his reign, it's said that this is from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll just read. The clouds showered all the water that the people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. So the cows are so happy there, they're fertilizing the grass with the milk. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king. Because the kings having no enemy, the living beings were not at any time disturbed by mental agonies, diseases, or excessive heat or cold. So just kind of a very happy place to be under these exemplary kings. They were very happy because the kings were like proper kshatriyas. So I don't know how much I can speak about Varnashram now, we don't have so much time. But basically we have a system called Varnashram, and it's just a way of structuring society. So everyone has a nature, how they work properly. So some people are naturally, they're rulers, and they should rule, and some people naturally, they can do lots of labor, and they can serve others. And then there's some business people, naturally they can, and they protect the cows, and they can also do business, and they earn most of the money. And then there's the brahmanas, who are like the teachers, they're the priestly class, so they advise the kings. And so that was the traditional system, that the kings take shelter of the brahmanas, they go to them for advice. But these days that's not happening. Like they don't take advice from brahmanas. I mean, there's barely any brahmanas now anyway, really people with real, spiritual knowledge and sincere. But the whole system is based on protection, so each is protecting the other. So I mentioned before how the kings were genuinely protecting the citizens because they wanted them to go back to Godhead. And they were taking advice from the brahmanas, how to do that, how to help the people. And so that's how the system worked. But these days it's like nobody knows really what their nature is. And so the people that are ruling the countries, they're not really pure kshatriyas. They shouldn't be ruling because it's not their nature to rule. And then people get disappointed when they don't live up to how they should be, basically. And I guess that's how the monarchy, the monarchical system declined in the first place, that the kings weren't properly trained, they weren't properly doing their duty as kings. And they started to exploit, and then of course, you know, whenever people are exploited, they want to overthrow their superiors, so because they want to be treated well and be comfortable in their life. And then, yeah, so that system is no longer, yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, 5,000 years ago it started. Yeah. I mean, yeah, so it's just a gradual process. So even from like, so we have 4 yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. And from Satya's yuga's like the most pious, everyone's very pious, it's very in the mode of goodness. And yeah, everything's just very peaceful. And from that it's just degrading gradually. So I wouldn't be able to pinpoint a time, this is when it happened, but it's just gradually degrading, you know, the whole time. Oh, yeah, so 4 billion years, yeah, that's like we said. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, 4 billion years for us is 1 day for Lord Brahma.
Is our Earth going to survive that many years? Is our Earth going to survive that many years?
No.
He's not even on Earth.
Mm.
No.
Read slightly further. It says
Oh, does it say?
equivalent to one world.
That's 1 day, is 1 night as well.
Yeah, 1 night, which is the same length of time, yeah.
360,700,000.
Measuring the duration of the world, each kalpa, yeah. Yeah. Because it's saying the duration of the world, because at the end of the day of Brahma, there's a partial annihilation of all of the lower planets, actually. So they all go back into the body of Lord Brahma, and then during the night it's all like unmanifest, and then during the day again it's manifested.
The whole universe, our universe will get annihilated.
Yeah, goes to sleep. When Lord Brahma goes to sleep, we all go to sleep as well, basically. I can't remember actually. I think it's like, yeah, I was reading about it earlier. I think, yeah, everything is just like asleep. Yeah. And then it's manifest again in the next, when the day comes around again. But, yeah. Yeah, it makes us feel very small. Is there any other comments or questions? Otherwise we can finish off. Okay. Thank you for coming. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.